Hello everyone, I'm Brock, also known as Brock the Llama, and in today's video I will talk about video game franchises that nobody nowadays remembers or even thinks of, even though these franchises are known to be good. They tend to be overlooked and often forgotten despite their good quality for some reason, but today I will list the ones that I think tend to be the most unappreciated for an unknown reason. Some of these franchises may have already died or just been halted by the developers, but they still have their own cult followings and are certain to be enjoyable. So without further ado, let's start the list. At number 5, we have a game franchise that is probably the most well known compared to the rest in this list, which is the Driver franchise. This is at number 5 due to its bigger fan base compared to other games, but I still think that it is often criticized heavily by critics and some gamers due to several reasons. Many say that the third game in the franchise, which is of course Driver 3 or Drift 3er, is probably the worst game in the entire series, but let's not forget that there are a few spin-offs that came out which were obviously way worse than that one, like Driver Renegade for the Nintendo 3DS. I still think that the main games in the series are very enjoyable, although they can be difficult at times due to their chase missions, which I think it adds to the fun. And let's not forget that Driver 2 was the first mainstream game to introduce a 3D open world where you can get out of the vehicle and steal other people's vehicles just like in Grand Theft Auto. This franchise started very strong on the PS1, but as time passed, people started to forget about them, and no games have been released ever since Driver San Francisco, which actually garnered very good reviews. Let's just keep our fingers crossed for more games in this franchise. Number 4 is one of the most unknown franchises on this list and tends to be forgotten for this reason. These games are known as the Mercenary series. Even though only 2 games came out, they are still some of the most fun and enjoyable open world games out there, especially for the PS2 and PS3 generations. The first game came out for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2005, and I still remember spending countless hours playing and having fun with this game. I actually bought it when it first came out because the cover looked pretty cool, and I was not disappointed by the game as a whole. It was an open world game where you could do a lot of destruction, just like the title suggests, and have fun by killing the enemies, stealing the vehicles, and destroying everything you saw in your path. The second game came out in 2008 called Mercenaries 2 World in Flames for the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and the PC. It was similar to the first game in many ways, while also improving on the gameplay. The only negative thing I would say about this game is that the PS2 port was pretty bad, and it didn't play as well as other versions, so I would say to avoid this game at all costs. These games were made by the legendary Pandemic Studios, which made some of the most fun and underrated games that ever came out. At number 3, we have a game franchise also created by the legendary Pandemic Studios, rest in peace, known as Destroy All Humans. I just don't know where to begin with this series. They are so chaotic, fun, and charming at the same time. The story is solid, the gameplay is solid, and the graphics are solid as well. These games are open world just like Mercenaries, but have a different twist. This time you are an alien named Crypto, tasked with obtaining DNA from humans in order to save his race from cloning themselves to utter extinction. But in his journey, he goes through some of the wackiest and fun adventures as well as making fun of the human race. Like I said before, the game has a solid story, but the characters are the ones that keep it interesting and funny. I would say that the first 2 games are the best in the series, and if you haven't played them, then you should, if you enjoy open world games with a different and unique twist to them. So far, THQ Nordic are considering reviving it, but still no news have come out as of yet, but the games are available for current gen systems. At number 2, we have some of the most overlooked driving games that ever came out. These games are part of the Test Drive series and are very solid racing games. These games exist ever since the late 80s and have some of the most fun gameplay out there when it comes to racing games. These series have quite a lot of games under their belt, but are still unknown to many players despite having solid titles. I would have to say that the best titles in the franchise are the Test Drive Unlimited games. Only 2 came out under this name, but they had some of the best gameplay when it comes to open world racing. To be honest with you, I'm a huge fan of these 2 games, and this is why I decided to add this series to the list. Even though the series have their cult following, they are still not known enough to compete with the likes of Need for Speed or the Forza Horizon games. When it comes to the future of the franchise, many players are still wondering if a new game will ever come out, and are eager to know more news if it does happen, and I'm one of those players. If you love racing games with a good mix of simulation and arcade-style racing, and often with a huge open world to explore, then I would recommend you to play these games. You won't be disappointed. And at number 1, we have one of the most beloved yet underrated and overlooked game series out there, known as the Oddworld games. These series have a very solid and loyal fan base, myself included, that span across generations, with Oddworld Abe's Odyssey being the first title in the franchise that came out in 1997 for the PS1, PC, MS-DOS, and Game Boy. Many fans fell in love with the odd, pun not intended, yet quirky and lovable protagonist known as Abe. The story had a very strong and important message to say that can still be applied today, which I will not spoil, and the gameplay was difficult yet rewarding, especially if you want to save all of Abe's pals, known as Mudokons. The following game in the franchise was very similar to the first, but the gameplay was improved drastically enough to be even more enjoyable that even many fans still considered it to be the best game in the franchise. Then Oddworld Munch's Odyssey came out for the original Xbox in 2001 and was somewhat criticized for moving to full 3D gameplay, but was still a solid entry in the franchise. Then, in 2005, Oddworld A Stranger's Wrath came out for the original Xbox and it became a cult hit. I have to admit that this game was my introduction to the Oddworld franchise and is my favorite game of the series. This game fixed first-person gameplay with third-person gameplay. The story is just so good, with 2 quite interesting and unexpected plot twists that I will not spoil so you can enjoy it for yourself. This game got a remaster in 2011 for the PS3, PS Vita, and PC and was improved in different ways. And recently, Oddworld New and Tasty came out for last and current generation systems and is a remake of the first game in the franchise with a sequel called Soulstorm coming out probably this year. I could go on and on about this franchise for hours, but I have to stop it right here. This is definitely the best underrated game franchise out there, and I would recommend it entirely to anyone that considers themselves a gamer. So go and play them now! So this has been my top 5 underrated game franchise list that include my personal favorites as well as some gamers' favorites. So what do you think about the video? Did you enjoy it? Why or why not? And if you did, please click the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.